Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. Um, First off, that food back there was amazing, right? Yeah, huge shout out to Ram and his crew, and to Bites and Bashes, I think is the name of the restaurant. So thank you, and for those on the live stream. That was the only thing that probably y'all missed out on. But um, my name is Ivan Salinas. I'm the programs coordinator here at Beyond Baroque. Uh, thank you. Yeah, we're a nonprofit literary arts organization founded in 1968. We are on our 55th years anniversary. So there'll be a big celebration, so you all are invited. A project that began as an experimental literary magazine and evolved into the interdisciplinary art space we know today. Since the late 70s, the organization has taken residence here in the original Venice City Hall building. We are a place dedicated to the possibilities of language, providing a platform for readings, writing workshops, and gallery exhibitions year round. I'd like to acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Tongva peoples. Venice is settled on the Wanka and Sangha Tongva villages. We acknowledge the wrong done to indigenous peoples through colonialism and genocidal practices. As an arts organization, we're committed to uplifting their communities, stories, and cultures. I do want to also just give you a tease of what we have coming up in the space. We have a few exciting things this month. It is Pride Month, and we are celebrating with a Queer Writers Festival. This would be in partnership with the LA Poet Society. And included in the lineup are Tracy Kato Kirayama, Umbi Flores, Missy Fuego, and a few other authors included. That same day, we are also hosting authors Meher Adnan and our poet in residence, Will Alexander. And next month, on July 21st, we are hosting Palestinian authors Bayeth Almadoun and Randa Jarrar. This will be a conversation moderated by Sarah Yani. As Palestinian poets, they'll be in conversation discussing topics of exile. And that event will be co-sponsored by the Thomas Mann House, the Radius of Arab American Writers, and Mizna. So please be on the lookout for all those great events. Offsite, however, we do have an exciting collaboration with the Gagosian Museum in tandem with their exhibition with German painter Anselm Kiefer. We're co-sponsoring a reading with Jerome Rothenberg and Charles Bernstein, and that's happening June 24th. So, please RSVP to that event and come out and check out the exhibition at the Gagosian. This couldn't be possible without the support of our audience. Please consider becoming a Beyond Baroque member. You're supporting the space and helping us in providing reprogramming to the community. And above all, please support our authors. If you like what you hear as they come up to the mic, feel free to get a book and get it signed after the reading. Huge shout out to the Beyond Baroque team. Our tech master, Eric Alberg. Directors, Jimmy Vega, Quentin Ring, staff Genesis Perez in the bookstore. And thank you all for choosing to be here tonight, and of course to our readers and to the teams of Kaya and Addy Magazine. They've put together a wonderful event for us tonight. So I'll turn it over to our MC for the night, who just kind of met briefly a few minutes before. Dilo, there you are. Take it away.
All right. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing? Good. That's the kind of energy that I personally need, because I just flew in and to do this important event because I couldn't miss it. So I need y'all's energy, because who knows what I'm supposed to vamp about, really? Because generally I would be telling you all sorts of jokes, but I don't know if I have them in my back pocket just yet. But if you keep doing that, then maybe things will come to me. Thank you. I'm so excited. I have things to read too, but I'm so excited too because I know this house is filled with the best motherfuckers on this planet. And I love y'all. I saw y'all just loving on each other out there. Never mind that you didn't love up on me, but you know, that's okay. Y'all are racist. But what I want to say is that I saw all the love that was out there in the courtyard, drinking wine, eating the amazing hors d'oeuvres. And so we want to take that energy that was out there and like harness it in here. Y'all are already there, but like really, like there's, you know what I'm saying? Like even though it's reading, readers can feel when you're not engaged. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to give a lot of love because these aren't just regular readers. These are like the creme de la creme. Wow, I haven't said that since high school. So here we go. This event, like Yvonne was saying, is a collaboration between Beyond Baroque, Adi Magazine, and Kaya Press. Give it up for all three. Adi Magazine is a new literary journal of global politics that focuses on rehumanizing policy and showcasing art rooted in lived experience. Kaya Press is a nearly 30-year-old independent publishing house dedicated to Asian Pacific American and Asian diasporic literature. Yes! She, almost as old as me. The theme for tonight's reading is Omens, based on Adi's new volume, which features original works being released each month from May through October. We ask readers to engage with the idea of omens in whatever way it resonates for them. Y'all, this is not just about the superstitious omens that our parents told us about, okay? Like don't cut your hair at night and don't cut because there's going to be bad omens that come out of that. And then there's like, a trajectory, right? Bad things will happen. Like you might turn gay. Which is what happened to me, and I'm bald. All the queer people make some noise. Oh. And all the people who think they're straight. I'm just saying, if you raise your hand, it's 2023. We're dying. Go fuck everybody. With consent. I'm just saying, it's apocalypse. If there's not a better reason to go and experiment. Like, just act like you're a freshman in college. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. Not sorry. Anyway, but no, that's so great to hear all the queer people in the audience. I am part of the LGBTQ community as well. And I am a T. I am a trans. Yes, thank you very much. And yes, it's been 7 years since I've been on testosterone. Yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah. Which is why I sound like Drake on autotune. You can laugh. It's okay. I made the joke. Controller. It just happens. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Exactly. Okay, I'm not gonna sing more Drake songs, but this is not the D-Lo show. But I do just want to tell everybody, if you know a trans person or you're about to know a trans person or a non-binary person or like anybody who's not like a cis straight person, please do not ask us about our genitalia. Just saying, that's my community service in this room. Queer people, we are beautiful, magical human beings. Do not reduce us to the junk underneath our clothing, especially during Pride Month. And having said that, I know some of y'all are thinking, well, is Dilo going to tell us if he has a penis or not? Because y'all are sick bastards. And no, I do not have a penis. I have 3. One I am wearing right now. The other 2 are at home or inside of me. I can't. It's at home. Okay, so, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first people. But remember, again, we're going to give our peoples lots and lots of good energy. And what else are we going to do? We're going to breathe through the pieces because so Adi was founded by Meera Sharma and Nimi Garinathan. Nimi, who I've known for a long time, I'm part of a Tamil writers group. Not we're not comics. We're that's the serious side of me. And Nimi has this incredible institute through City College, which is like sort of like a mentor. I mean, I call it this. I know that there's all the academic language around this, but that's not the language that I am familiar with. But how I see it is that Nimi takes beautiful writers, young writers, and lets them really like stand in their power around the fact that the personal is political, and that our most political, most gorgeous writing comes from the personal. And so I know that in that same vein, all the writers here are coming with all their gold, all their heart, all everything. So we're going to breathe with their pieces. We're going to laugh when we want to laugh. We're going to cheer when we want to cheer. We're going to give our readers energy, because artists, we see things that other people can't see, right? We are solving the same exact problems that people who get paid big bucks get to do and get paid for. Yes, you know what I'm saying? It's redundant right there, but anyway, I'm tired. But so what I'm saying is that, like, what a blessing it is to be with artists. That's all I'm gonna say. So without further ado, I am going to bring up to the stage a dear friend of mine, a super amazing person in general. If you could be so lucky to have her as your friend, I might have to take notes for y'all, or you might need to take notes from me and then step to Taz. Tanzila Taz Ahmed is a political strategist, storyteller, and artist based in Los Angeles. She creates at the intersection of counter narratives and culture shifting as a South Asian American Muslim second generation woman. She's turned out over 500,000 Asian American voters, recorded her hashtag Good Muslim, Bad Muslim podcast. If you haven't heard that, yes, like, right? Podcast at the White House, and makes Muslim Valentine's Day cards. Hashtag Muslim V Day. Am I supposed to say the hashtags? I don't know. But they're so great. They're so great. They're for sale in the... Yeah, just give us one of yours right now. I have a G. You have a jihad. Jihad. I have a jihad. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This shit's amazing. Her and she does this annually. Her essays are published in anthologies Pretty Bitches, Whiter, Good Girls Marry Doctors, Love Inshallah, and numerous online publications. In September 2019, she was UCLA's activist in residence at the Institute on Inequality and Democracy, and in 2016 received an award from President Obama's White House as a champion of change in art and storytelling. Please put your hands together for Taz Ahmed.
Ooh, this is dark. You did not need to read the whole thing. That was... I can't see anything with these lights. This is amazing. I am going to read a lyrical prose piece that I'm pulling from my Substack, which you can all subscribe to. I started writing it after the podcast ended and during the pandemic. Okay, I'm just going to get into it. The first time I got my ears pierced at the age of 4, I had bright red ruby studs in honor of my birth month, July. I was never a huge fan of rubies. The bright red color was jarring. I loved and still do love the calm energy of aqua-colored stones. Blues are the color of the ocean and the skies. Within months, my soft skin started growing around the red stone earrings, and my uncle had to scrape it out because he was the least squeamish of all the grown-ups. Last summer, at the rock store in the desert, I bought a raw ruby the size of a quarter for $10. The paper it came with said it would help with passion, prosperity, and achievements. I thought that maybe I would buy rocks that would help me write. Maybe these crystals would help me focus and prosper. When I was a kid, my favorite place to visit was Ruby Falls and Rock City in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Whenever our family had Bengali visitors, my parents would send me off with strange uncle and aunties to play the 9-year-old tourist guide, but I didn't mind. I loved the fantasy world created on the cliffs of the mountains in Rock City, where pathways zigzagged through natural rock formations and waterfalls and little fictional fairylands. Then we would head over to Ruby Falls, where there's a waterfall 260 feet under Lookout Mountain, the largest underground waterfall in the US. The tour guide would wind you around stalagmites and stalactites lit by fluorescent yellow. And at the waterfall, they would use the gimmick of turning off all the lights to show how dark it could get. I went so often, I had my favorite rock formations on the path, pointing them out precociously to the aunties and uncles. At the gift shop at the end of the tour, if I was lucky, I'd get a gift of colored rock candy on a stick and a bag of colorful small polished rocks. I still remember my favorites in my collection: a flat tiger eye, smooth amethyst, a lumpy lace agate. I'd play with these rocks alongside my Barbie dolls, not understanding all the power they held. Maybe I did in a way, I just didn't know at the time. As an adult with an adult disposable income, I am delighted by going into hipster crystal stores, which are popping up everywhere lately. The specific stores I love have rocks and small bowls on tables. You can touch them and see which one's called to you. It is an exercise on intuition, to sense not just what you need in a crystal, but to feel what may be drawn to you. It is the adult version of collecting rocks as kids, except the rocks are more expensive and you don't have a parent refusing to spend money on your rocks, and you understand their vibrations. I have spent close to $700 on crystals over the course of the pandemic. The younger version of me is giddy with this declaration. She would be so happy if she could see my rock collection now. Every time I bring some home, I always first smoke them with Palo Santo before putting them on my altar. Depending on their powers, I place them all over my apartment. The ones to help me sleep on my headboard, the ones to help me write in an evil eye dish on my desk, the ones to help my body heal in a bowl by where I sit the most. When the acupuncturist told me I needed to cry, I started carrying a rose quartz in my bra. Close to my heart, maybe it would unlock it. One night in a hotel room, I forgot they were there and they came crashing down on the tiles, cracking all over the place. It was hard not to place symbolism on that moment. A few years ago, I got into a stupid car accident. Stupid because it was standstill traffic and my tiny car got rolled into by a Jeep at 3 miles per hour. His car had no damage at all. I had put a protection meditation on the car and placed a bright green malachite under the driver's seat just the week before. I often wonder if the stone protected me from more harm or drew harm to me. I haven't found the rock in my car since. I used to think that believing in the powers of crystals was un-Islamic, but then I remember the time I touched the black stone placed at the corner of the Kaaba. I didn't want to shove through people to touch it, but I did. I refused to kiss it though, like everyone else was trying to do. Tradition says the black stone is a meteorite that fell from the heavens to be a guide for Adam and Eve to build an altar and placed at the Kaaba. It is also sunnah to wear an akik ring on your right hand. These akiks are carnelian stones, set in silver, and are the same that the Prophet used to wear to commemorate the removal of idols in Mecca. Carnelian is used to protect you from enemies and all types of misfortune. Shia Muslims pray with a small rock of turba made of clay placed on their mat to symbolize praying on Allah's earth. When I was sick in 2020, the Muslim psychic told me to do energy work with a tiger eye, placing it on my bed or by my bed. It is used to prevent serious disease and it is auspicious. I believe now that believing in the power of crystals is a part of Islamic belief. My mother's favorite thosbis were the ones beaded with red stones. The rocks I remember include the following: the large gray stone mountain in Atlanta, which was carved in two by Confederates, and where I was taking unproblematic field trips. The lion-shaped rock of Sigiriya in central Sri Lanka. The black volcanic rock on the road to Hana in Maui. Collecting round granite rocks embedded with barnacles on Dabab Bay. The borax mines and salt flats in Death Valley. Climbing over the boulders of Joshua Tree. And eating chowder while looking at the Goonie Rock in Cannon Beach. The rocks I will never forget are the rocks we placed on Mom's grave. It is un-Islamic to have a lawnmower go over Muslim graves, so rocks are the community's compromise. The rocks we got were white, speckled with quartz, and the type you find on manicured gardens. We bought them in a bag from Home Depot and spread them ourselves. I pull out weeds fighting between the rocks every time I visit. In the deserts of Saudi Arabia, while I lived there as a preteen, we would look on the long stretches of sand for small desert roses, otherwise known as sand roses, Sahara roses, rose rock. They look like a ball of sand until you look closer and see the petals of the crystals. We were always on search for the biggest ones, and as at the American Embassy School, the kids would trade them. The desert rose is said to enhance dreams and open your upper chakras and help you pursue your goals. I would like to see a crystal in the wild, undiscovered and magically placed, in a cave or on a cliff like a mushroom in the woods. I want to walk into an unopened geode. The doctors said I have a crystal growing inside me. Last year, my kidney was on and off in pain, and the doctor said it was because of a kidney stone. It was this same pain I used to get during Ramadan. Everyone I talked to said it was from dehydration. I'm skeptical because I'm now skeptical of doctors. I learned that the kidney stones are just crystals that grow from oxalate of specific foods, including spinach, almonds, rhubarbs, and beets. My dad is creating crystals inside of his body too. He has gout. His crystals come from high purine food of red meat and shellfish and sometimes legumes. I imagine our bodies as geodes, crystallizing from the inside out as we age. Bodies are hard, not like the rock hard of abs and bicep flexes, but hard in that your organs are emotional, that stressing them causes viruses to turn into cancer. Your pelvis can be rotated. Doctors tell you to lose weight when you have pain, but trying to lose weight is probably the source of the pain. That one body can heal from cutting pieces out or sticking needles into skin or changing what you eat. Our bodies are so hard, they are capable of creating crystals and stones from the inside out. I found my childhood rock collection in a caboodle at my dad's house recently. I pulled it down and looked at all my favorite rocks all over again. The younger version of me is giddy to know I still have these rocks in my collection. May I live this life to honor her always. We are all geodes, aging inside out into crystals and becoming hard like diamonds. Thank you so much.
Yes. We're all geodes, y'all. We're all freaking geodes. I love that. Now, whenever I think bad about myself, I can use that as a touchstone. And I said touchstone. My God, I'm amazing. So we're gonna keep this going. Our next reader is. I am so sorry if I mispronounce people's names. Usually, I ask people how they like their names to be said, but I did not do that this time around. So I'm fired. I fired myself. So. Ruxandra? Pretty close. How is it? Ruxandra. And is it AKA Rux or Rux? Yeah, you fucking with me. Yeah. Ruxandra, AKA Rux. Guidi has been telling stories for over 2 decades. Her reporting for public radio, podcasts, magazines, and various multimedia outlets has taken her throughout the United States, the Caribbean, South and Central America, as well as Mexico and the U.S.-Mexico border region. She is the president of the board of Homelands Productions, a nonprofit magazine, High Country News. A journalism nonprofit cooperative founded in 1989. And a contributing editor for the 50-year-old nonprofit magazine High Country News. Currently, she is a freelance editor and contributor for various podcasts and magazines. And most recently, she was the host and reporter for Foreign Policy's The Catch and story editor for Bone Valley. She's editing 2 long-form investigative podcasts for Audible and working on her first novel. Please, y'all. Wow, that's amazing. So nice to meet you right now, and I can't wait to hear more about your work. Please, a big round of applause for Ruxandra Guidi.
Thanks, y'all. We were actually just joking about how my name is unpronounceable, even if I go with the nickname, which is Rux, whatever, just not Roxy. It's such an honor to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I want to read you chapter 4 of my novel in progress. So it's like momentous, it's emotional for me. It's the very first time that like more than one person at a time is getting to hear this. So I guess the main thing you need to know is Fernanda, the main character, she's been sent away by her parents to her grandmother's house. So that's where the story begins. By now, I've spent Christmas and New Year's and Carnaval in Nueva Roa, far away from my parents. Both of my cousins' birthdays have passed, and so has my own. My favorite time of year so far is Las Alacitas, the festival Abucaro keeps telling me about. In the Aymara language, Alacita means to buy. So on this holiday, you're expected to purchase tiny versions of the things you most want as a way to see them materialized. If you want a car, you buy a little version of one, usually made out of plastic and metal, like the 2-inch toy cars my little cousin Felix loves to play with. If what you want is to finish school or get hitched, then you get a diploma or a marriage certificate written in print so small you can't even read it. So on. There are miniature houses and furniture and books and cereal boxes and even spoons for sale, all made to scale. None of these things can bring you luck or make your wishes true on their own, says Abu, until both a local shaman does a chaya and the parish priest blesses them as well. All for a fee, of course, as soon as you purchase them. Abucaro calls Las Alacitas the quintessential capitalist post-colonial holiday. We head down to the plaza early to avoid the big crowds, but find that people are already lining up. I'm expecting to see mostly children like myself, who tend to love miniatures because they are cute and make you want to care for them, and because they're obviously so much easier to collect than their real-size counterparts. But I'm surprised to see so many grown-ups, many of them as old as Abucaro. She's the one with the money, so I ask her to buy me a one-way plane ticket so I can get back home to my parents. It's such a specific request, I wonder if they'd even have such a thing here. Turns out they do, but we can't find any. The caseritas at the stalls tell us they've already sold out. Everyone wants to leave the country this year, they say. Everyone wants to get out. Abucaro chit-chats with them in Quechua, but I have no idea what they're saying. Abu and I keep browsing, looking for those elusive tiny one-way tickets, until she finds a replacement, kind of. A little red telephone with a twisty black cord and a rotary dial. This should do the trick, she says. You can call your dad and ask him to send you the plane ticket so you can go home. Think that will work? I look up at her. She's smiling. I picture it. Me calling my parents on a bright red telephone when I haven't even been able to pick up the receiver of the ugly black phone that sits in the living room of the house whenever they have actually called. Maybe I don't really want to go back home to my parents. Not yet. Maybe I just wish they hadn't gotten rid of me and sent me away to my grandmother's in this boring little town to begin with. Perhaps I'm just looking for a sign. Should I stay? Should I go? I am almost 10 years old. Do I even get to choose? I don't know if Abucaro's joking. She must be. As far as future wishes go, her idea to get the miniature phone is not straightforward enough to turn it into a reality. Amidst the piles of other colorful knickknacks, I also pick out a tiny sewing machine that looks exactly like Abu's. tiny rolls of toilet paper, a tiny dog, a tiny cat, and a tiny bicycle. And here's the thing I learned about las alacitas. You can't judge people's wishes or deny them, no matter how unlikely or random they may be. If you do, your words can come back to you as bad luck. The caserita who sells us the tiny red telephone has a section devoted to all things dead. Skeletons, ghosts, skulls, headstones, and coffins, all organized by color and by size. They don't creep me out, and I think it's because they're so small. I wonder, are these the kinds of things people are wishing for? Who does? Well, I do. Ever since I arrived at Abucaro's old house in Nueva Roa, I've been obsessed with finding out whether its first owner, the 16th century Catholic priest from Seville, is buried in the backyard. Everyone says that the story of the house goes back to that priest, how back in the Spanish colonial era, the priests lived in the houses closest to the cathedral and the plaza. And when they died, they were buried in their own backyards, alongside everyone else who lived alongside them, like their indigenous servants and even their horses. But I don't want Abucaro to find out about my obsession with the priest. This would trouble her. She might think there's something wrong with me. She could get really mad if she finds out I've even roped my cousins into a haphazard exhumation that's gone nowhere. Without giving it much thought, I lean over the display, pretending to take a close look at what the caserita is selling. She doesn't notice, and I sneak my right hand under my bent torso and grab a fistful of miniatures. We walk away from the display, my heart beating wildly like a maraca stuck inside my chest. I'm caressing the little ceramic bones and skulls that now sit loose in my pant pocket. A gentleman wearing a white button-down shirt and a fedora hat sticks his chin out to us as we leave. I think he's caught me stealing. My heart won't stop trying to break free. Para la chaya, he says to us, 5 pesos cada uno. Thank God, he's beckoning us to his stall. We cross his makeshift curtain and step inside, a space so smoky we can barely see the aluminum pan with burning coals in the center of the room, and a couple of white plastic chairs over on one side. It smells like freshly burnt wood in there. We sit on the chairs like one does at the doctor's office, waiting for him to bring in a few more customers to make this transaction worth his time. I watch as he sprinkles a little beer in the miniatures while reciting a few words in Quechua, song-like. That's a prayer, Abucaro whispers. He's asking the object to be made one with the person and their wish. Until then, I haven't thought much about how well Abucaro can speak Quechua. But of course she can. She uses it at the street market every week to haggle with the caseritas over the price of produce, or any time something makes her upset and she can't help but hurl an insult at somebody. Her words just won't come out in Spanish. Upayay, I hear her say. Shut up. Upa, you're dumb. Supay haparunma, go to hell. And do the blessings work? I ask her. They do, as long as they're followed by a sprinkling of holy water and a prayer from the Catholic priest. We have to take care of that next. The man with the fedora hat hands all the little things back to me. I look down at my cupped hands and I see the bike, sewing machine, the toilet paper, the cat, the dog, telephone. Now they've all been given new powers. I know, of course, that the little bones couldn't have received his chaya since they've been sitting deep in my pocket all along. But I also don't have the 5 pesos to pay him for cada uno. Abucaro gives him 2 20 pesos bills, and he hands her change and coins along with a tiny receipt, a slip of paper proving she's paid, stamped with the word cancelado in all caps. Thank you so much.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you. Ruxandra, aka Rux, thank you. Our next reader is wrong bio. Okay. Jason Magabo Perez. Is it Perez? Okay. How do you say it? Okay, both ways. All right. Serves as San Diego Poet Laureate 2023 to 2024. Perez is the author of Phenomenology of Superhero, published by or is Redbird Chapbooks 2016, and This is for the Mostless, WordTech Editions 2017. Perez's work has also appeared in Witness, The Feminist Wire, Entropy, Marias at Sambaguitas. Did I say that right? Sampaguitas. Thank you. Interim and recently on NPR's Here and Now. Perez is Associate Editor of Ethnic Studies Review, Community Arts Fellow at Bulosan Center for Filipino Studies, and a core organizer with the Digital Sala. Currently, Perez is an Associate Professor and Director of Ethnic Studies at Cal State San Marcos. Y'all, again, we're going to take a deep breath in. And at the tail end of that let out, you're going to start thunderously clapping. Give it up, Jason.
Oh, you can't see anything up here. Thank you. I have a lot to share before I share. So, full disclosure, I'm a Gemini. So I might be reading something and thinking about something else at the same time. So, but I want to read an essay. I'm actually inspired to read a little bit of I think we can call it prose. And so some real quick history. I just drop this bomb a lot. My mother was one of two Filipino migrant nurses who were framed for murder by the FBI in the mid-70s. And so I've been writing about this. I did a dissertation on why I couldn't write about it. And so I've been writing a lot of different things. And so I want to read this essay with you. It's in 20 parts, so you'll know, like, okay, it's almost fucking done, right? So, but it'll be within the right time frame. There's a lot of references. The notes are extensive in terms of like who I'm sampling and who I'm thinking with. But this is a meditation on my mother's walk. So my mother also had suffered meningioma, which is a benign tumor growing on her brain. She had to get open brain surgery twice and radiation. But to ambulate, as she likes to say as a nurse, she walks around, right? So she's like, it's like a routine. She walks. She's been walking for a long time. So I have been meditating on her walk. And so this is my first attempt to sort of think about the walk from when she was arrested by the FBI in Illinois, in sort of thinking about that walk with respect to how I've been reflecting on it. So, this is just a little bit of context. I'm just going to read it. Right? So the title is absurd. It's long. This essay is after the Two-Spirit Mnemone poet Christos, who wrote a really wonderful poem in this bridge called My Back, called I Walk in the History of My People. And so that's a huge reference in addition to all the other references that you might hear in this piece. Right? And so it starts with an epigraph of my mother sort of narrating her arrest, and sort of her calling the FBI crazy. In her experience, she got off work and was arrested and tried, etc. And we could talk about that history afterward if you'd like. The title is I Walk in Historiographies of My Mother as Embodied Theory of Complex Refusal, which may or may not generate a syntax of possibility for expansive underfuturities wherein my mother shall walk against the state. 1, that my mother walks in this state of wake is revelation itself. 2, that revelation itself, geographies, intention. Those geographies, intention, future memories of narrations. Those narrations, transitions. Those transitions, a parking lot. That parking lot, a destruction of language. That destruction, an accumulation of content. That content, this slow construction of self. This self, a labor. This labor, a nurse. This nurse, Filipina. This slow construction of body and spatial and temporal traffic. 3, traffic remains metaphor of interior. I walk in the history of my mother. I walk against grain of syllabus. I walk against promise of bibliography. I walk against inclusion. I walk against the ruse of relevance. I walk against remaining traffic. And yes, I walk against such metaphor. 4, and there goes my mother walking, a walking volta in a post-shift trance, in white polyester nursing uniform, in black rubber shoes, in handcuffs covered by black sweater, my walking mother held by a blur of white men, held in violation, held in throat of world progress. I walk for the history of my mother. 5, here are fragments thrown together. My mother's body is war. My mother's body is threat. My mother's body is collateral, and I, another genre of collateral. 6, something fishy happening, my mother says. The FBI is here to arrest the suspected serial killer, walking. The delicate crunch of gravel underneath her black shoes, cameras shuddering, slow traffic passing, a crowd of onlookers speculating, the sound of vein against skin, the sound of a history beginning. 7, history becomes black shoes and a white polyester nursing uniform within the context of racial capitalism. History becomes a black sweater draped over handcuffed hands at the mercy of imperialism. History becomes flowers checked for explosives in my mother's delivery room. 8, from which refusal emerges such history. 9, I refuse to follow you into knowing, and I leave you walking, mother, walking in the irrational. 10, some stay working here for a sense of home, in fluidities of domination, in serial resistance, in hands undoing settler capitalism, a matter of realism draped over our own very knowing. Amidst reporters everywhere, I walk against the ruse of innocence. 11, oh, how serial is this crime, this white work in motion. 12, I walk at the history of my mother, and I believe in the disruptive role of her imagination. 12, no, did I say 12? 12, 13, the violence of news. Do not follow my mother into grave temporalities of racialization. Walk in gravel, walk against contribution. Hold my hand as we walk through the history of my mother in the VHS cassette of Michigan, then Illinois, then Michigan again. Of this speculative history, I am suspect. 14, what remains muted in frame are the horrors of working white men just doing their jobs. Come with us, they say, or we will drag you, they say. The silhouette of my mother passes. She holds in what most will never see. Here is what children do when everything done here is done against presence. 15, while underneath this scene, there are alternative outlines, counter memories, under futures. Here in the replay, the ghost is not simply a dead or a missing person. We pray for the ghost. We are prey to the ghost. The under futures ghost, whatever we thought we desired in the first place. 16, what is the material history of the Filipina walking body, walking war, walking collateral, walking ghost? 17, I am a simple figure investigating where history indicts love, love as roar, love as the ideology of under fire, a site in which I want to die laughing. I do not mourn the white scene. I do not mourn the white discovery of white regret. I suspect my mother does not tell me of the heaviness of her own imperceptibilities. I'm so over description. 18, I walk against the history of my mother. I walk against legibility. 19, I walk directly alongside my mother, between those white FBI agents inside the VHS of White Evanston, my mother's brown walking the sidewalk of downtown Chicago. I walk against visibility, against articulation, and my mother says to me to go ahead and smile, go ahead and cross the street. We stay delicate in our walking, perhaps shaking slightly. Perhaps we walk through the epistemological break between history and fiction, and perhaps we become fiction someday. 20, we narrate against legitimacy alongside the brightly archived rewind of image and volume of here, not quite here, and not quite bright, but open and slow. And my mother, I swear, walks, walks, walks. There is merely something about you. Walking, walking, walking in front of a crowded anywhere, and anywhere that needs a theory. And the screen fades to black against the whiteness of timelines, against timelines of whiteness. And so I walk against state. I walk within the history of my mother, who walks within a history of discrepant settlements, migrations, and fugitivities. We walk relationally, dear relatives. We walk, see how my mother and I still walk, walk without words, without a propertied syntax. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, it's a lot for me to be also an audience and then come up here after these powerful pieces. I'm just like, I have more questions, and then when I'm like, oh, then the audience probably has more questions, and this is when I tell y'all, this is when you all have to support the artist so that you can know more and that you can read more and read the beautiful words and how they're crafted and constructed. Beautiful storytelling already. Before our next 3 writers come up, I was supposed to say something. I forgot what it was. It was only supposed to be something that I said that I was gonna say to y'all. So I'm not fired again. Okay, this is not that they told me to say something. It was. This is what happens when you're so tired. Gonna wait for it to come. Does everybody else think that the apocalypse is happening? Okay. All right. And of the people who think that is happening right now, did y'all think that, like, were you like super traumatized throughout your life like me, that you thought it was happening when you were born too? Okay, just seeing who's in the audience. It's been happening, right? Yeah. Especially as a community organizer, you're like, what is up with this world? Yeah. Okay, so this is what I was supposed to tell y'all. This is not related to the apocalypse, but because everything is. So anyway, what I was going to say was that a long time ago, I wanted to share this story because it's the history of this place. So y'all know about Spark right next door? If you don't know about Spark, I forget what the acronym is, but basically Judy Baca, who is LA's like prized muralist, works out from that space, and they have a lot of exhibitions, and they have a lot of like really amazing Chicanx art that is shown in this place, right? And on the west side, it's kind of like a weird thing to have, you know what I'm saying? So, and even that y'all are here is, to me, historically weird, because in 2005, I was working at a yoga studio in Santa Monica, and I was doing inventory and doing the books, which a lot of people who know me as an actor, writer, comic are like, Taz was like, you did the books for a yoga studio? And I'm like, yeah, I did. Thank you. While I was there, I was also renovating. So I was drywalling, spackling, like doing all of the painting, all of that stuff, right? And so, because I didn't have a lot of money and because things weren't okay in my family around my queerness and because of a whole bunch of things, and because I was just starting my career and touring, I had this job to sort of like hold me over, right? And I lived with two cousin friends, Geeta and Melanie, right up the road. And so I'd go to these different spots because my friend worked at Spark, and I'd be like, "Hey, do y'all need any like painting done? Do y'all need like just and they were like, "No, we got that handled. We're all painters." So I came over here, and I was like, the person who was managing here was named Fred Dewey, and I came in and I saw the theater space, and I was like, there was like one light and like two Parnells and one Lico or one main light, and anyway, it doesn't matter. So then I went up to Fred and I was like, hey, like your theater, it needs a lot, and I actually can try and source some things too. And he was like, oh, this is very interesting. And because I knew some other theater people who had like lights hanging around, right? Anyway, so I went up to the gallery and I was like, oh, your gallery is so, but the floor is really like, doesn't look good at all. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, I could paint this for you. And he was, I think that he kind of knew this kid is trying to like pull one over me, but he was like, okay, like, what would you, and I said, oh, well, I was thinking, I brought some swatches for him the next day. And I was like, and so we settled on a color. And I was like, yeah, I'll paint it for like $150. So it's the whole floor of the gallery I painted. And I didn't even like, this is me hustling, right? Like I didn't even prime it. But I went in there with one coat, went in with the other coat, and it looked good. Like it was gonna stick. It was done well. You know what I'm saying? But then I found out the next day from the other person who worked here that he didn't like the color and he asked for it to be painted back. And I was like, why? You could have asked me to paint it back. But anyway, that's my history to this place, y'all. And you know what's so deep is that back then, there were no people of color up in this place. It was just like white poets. Yeah, y'all know this, right? And so it's so deep that with the young new blood that has been like, making this thing pop and Snapple pop, what is it? What's Rice Krispies? Krispies? I said it's Krispies. You know what I'm saying? Thank you. Somebody got me. Thank you. You got my back. So yeah, so it's just a blessing to be here because I haven't been here since then. Yeah. I haven't been here. So it's really deep on another level. Anyway. And now we full circle. Yes. So it's beautiful to be here and I actually even read here, and I think that I was the only person of color reading in a lineup too. That was actually even before the painting thing. But anyway, now we carry on with the show. That was just a brief interlude. Do I wink a lot? I've been winking a lot. I've never winked a lot before. I'm not that guy. Okay. All right. Here we go. So our next reader is Cynthia Dewi Oka. Cynthia is the editor-in-chief of Adi. Yes. Originally from Bali, Indonesia, she is the author of 4 books of poems, most recently A Tinderbox in 3 Acts, BOA. Well, who's laughing? Why are you laughing? Okay, you get a hall pass. All right. Okay, let me do this again and properly. In the words of my amma. Okay. Originally from Bali, Indonesia, she is the author of 4 books of poems, most recently A Tinderbox in 3 Acts through BOA Editions 2022, and Fire is Not a Country through Northwestern University Press 2021. An alumnus of the Warren Wilson MFA program for writers, she has taught creative writing at Bryn Mawr College, that's a lesbian school, New Mexico State University, Blue Stoop, and Voices of Our Nations, aka VONA, For 15 years, Cynthia worked as an organizer, trainer, and fundraiser in social movements for justice that center the experience of global majority. She lives in LA. Please, y'all, make it pop, snap, go, crack, pop for Cynthia.
What's up, y'all? I am not reading from my books tonight. After a while, you're like reading from your books like all the time. You're just like, I don't want to read from these books anymore. I need a break.
I have that problem. We all have that problem.
It's like a flex. No, just kidding. Anyway, all right. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. It's just so beautiful. It's amazing. Okay. Prayer for the things we couldn't say. Between terror and love, I didn't have to take a single step. In that blue-walled house where he laid wooden planks over the crocuses as soon as they jumped up, wet and purple-mouthed. Was I responsible or just small enough to blame? This is a historical question. I don't remember what I wished for later at school, surrounded by other immigrant kids trying to prove their belonging with snow-packed fists in my face. I thought of that while cupping the flat space where my mother's breast used to be. The way it's all here and gone, what nations made of us. The wound leaked for weeks. I became a pond, holding her as I have waited to be held. Care is a series of specific, repetitive motions. Among mountains of feminized dust, I bandage, I wash, I translate, I slice my fingers on the knife tails of shrimp, pink and iced in the sink. She commends forgiveness because what else are we to do with the dead? I'd like to stick exile in the mud. Far more than revolution, this pain of enunciating through weather lined with explosives. Over time, the wound withers to a line. I tried to save the dog filled with earthquake from earlier drafts, to protect the daughter who was reduced to a trembling, who made of trembling an art. Land. The thing I don't have. Land. Tell me who, having finally learned painfully to fly, having been flung into the nounlessness between points of light, wouldn't climb down the hole of the well-defined category, the coupling that eats one's voice alive, for rock and a piece of string to hold one to the surface, the plane of visible, touchable things. I could not have told you what I wanted, or rather, what else. It was beyond my imagining, what comes after leaving all my skins in the water. By water, I mean family. I mean the first border. I saw there fanged prey, furred predator, kneeling, both surrendering their war for the brief lengths of pink and hurting tongues. I went to him, flew, with the last of my strength. I want to say it was the regime's fault, the colonists, the men of God. I want to say there was an army behind the white dress. Poet, formerly known as activist, formerly known as child of God. This one is for the K-drama fans. They'll come, just wait for it. Having lost my faith again in the given of an indifferent, discoverable order wherein my injuries might be filed alphabetically, safe from tsunamis and termites, in color-coded cardboard boxes labeled international relations, American history, political economy, the high priestess, so that they might emerge aromatic, lipsticked, the day I am at last called to the podium of the ultraviolet narrative that is the stranger's literary citizenship in this country, which admires distillation, as in, here is my venti cup of suffering, but also complexity, as in, can you detect the floral notes in it? Having fled my home again, the gossiping bamboos, axe with its face buried in a stump in the yard, the front steps flecked with cigarette ash and occasionally cat piss. Details that for a while kept the sweetness at bay. Sweetness I did not have the webbing to hold and therefore resisted with my life, leaving me brittle, my head a cauldron, tipping from side to side, saying yes, 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 in iron urgency. I was strict with it, determined to channel my anger as admonished by the nonprofit feminists. The relief, you know who they are. The relief would have been to waste it, to let scald in every direction. Having paid for therapy, hypnotherapy, physiotherapy, Reiki, yoga, having scissored orchids, glaciers, Ganymede, and jellyfish out of the gloss of dead trees, having kneaded my sore liver in someone's Greenwich apartment while a camera rolled and sunset bled all over the romance of fire escapes, having framed my face in the toothpaste-spackled mirror with post-its of sharpied affirmations, you are worthy of, insert antonyms of the void. Having planked daily and prayed to herbs, having notated the astrologer's account of my past life, you were either a canon or a pirate. Having finally cast every auntie, cousin, sister, comrade I have failed to avenge or forgive, I can't always tell the difference. In my own ungrateful immigrant version of that scene in the Monkfish episode of It's Okay to Not Be Okay, yes, the K-drama, when Jo Jae-soo, the overlooked friend who wishes he were the beloved brother, tells Moon Gang-tae, it's always those who are weak who act all tough. You weaklings should stick together, then you guys will become invincible. Though my trouble is, I'm not convinced of that final clause, having failed to gather enough evidence of anything beyond the gathering to justify the gathering. Just now, a strong wind blew, which you couldn't tell from looking behind closed doors. The sky remains an unflappable, I almost want to say elitist blue, except for the trees that immediately surrendered their flags, scattering them to twist separately like confetti, because yes, you can read this poem as a celebration, or children from my part of the world, in cold so clear and merciless it is practically an intelligence. All the way here, I asked Google, how does what I believe become what I deserve? What now, if not the brief fellowship of the undefended, our weird, papery dances in waning light? All right. So I wrote this last poem for my love, but I'm actually going to dedicate it to D-Lo tonight. And you will hear the first line and understand why. I know. Well, you know. Y'all can fight that out later. All right. It's also still for my love. All right, okay. Let's do it. At the cliffs of Moher, I asked for a future. That's in Ireland. Apocalypse. Resolved to daily drama. Guttural cries purled wing to wing on electricity's black lyric. Sun's pink cotton in tangles of imperial ribbon. The neighbor who keeps asking, "Do you speak English?" because I don't greet her warmly enough. I close the browser on fishes, sorrow blind, breathing the reef's white windows. The war's fine print specific repeat themselves, their mongers indistinguishable as one holy man from another. Who doesn't now feel the perpetual heartbreak of clouds? All that view and only vanishing to look forward to. I can barely hold the language of my hands. Ghosts and grasses cosplaying as husband, dictator, a mother's 1,000 exiles. Even swaggering with opposition, I carried the bricks. Let me in, I prayed in secret, and I will be good. But like all the world's endings, every girl who's been left undefended, I could not afford to be good. Asked instead for love, when the Irish rains parted and the pleated body I had come for emerged, rock blue, wasted by the Atlantic, dotted with shaking fists of Queen Anne's lace. And love did come, lightning through the iron grid of digitized doom and money detachments masquerading as art, though late because LA traffic. I remember everything we exchanged, the riches I took for me, not the poem to which I have in the past surrendered the best of my life. Because a poet I admired once said the poem was more important than my life. I can tell you, love asked me how to pronounce my given name. And if my given name were my true name, which is to say, we are not what we have been made to bear. I have been so slow to it. The discipline of answering with no other face, no heart but my own. So let me practice now. Taking you in my mouth, putting your hand here and here and here again, because here is good. Here is the name we've given each other in my petrified girl tongue, loud, crimson in the age of extinctions. Thank you.
That was the Love in the Apocalypse poem. That was amazing. That was beautiful. Are there more apocalypse jokes? No? Okay. Just wondering. We're going to keep this moving. No, shh. Good Lord, chatty Cathy's. Okay, so again, I didn't do my homework. So I'm going to give this a good old college try. Why do they say that? All right. Mahtem? Did I get it? You didn't want it to be you? You said, oh no, for your own name. But did I hit it? Okay. Shiferraw? Mahtem Shiferraw is a writer and visual artist from Ethiopia and Eritrea. Can I just make a quick segue here? Because I don't know what it is, but I think our Tamil Sri Lankan peoples are related somehow to the Eastern Horn of Africa. And so I get mistaken for Ethiopian or Eritrean all the time, which I don't know, I don't see, because I think that Ethiopian and Eritrean people are gorgeous, stunning. But anyway, I know that sounded like a white thing to say, but uh, but I'm just saying, like, okay, so the only other time that I feel pressure to perform is like walking into an Ethiopian restaurant and seeing all the aunties and uncles stare at whoever's walking in through the door, and like, and it feels exactly like the Tamil Sri Lankan auntie and uncles, and I feel like I suddenly like straighten up and I'm like, yes, I am worthy of being alive. Yes, and I like act more proper than I ever would have ever. That doesn't happen to y'all? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm like, they can stare because, not because I have a thing for aunties, but I do. Any aunties out there? No, just playing. Okay. Okay. Let's get back. Let's get back to you. Okay. Mahtem Shiferraw is a writer and visual artist from Ethiopia and Eritrea. She is the author of 3 full-length poetry collections: Fuchsia, by University of Nebraska Press in 2016, which won the Sillerman First Book Prize for African Poets. Yes, Your Body is War, University of Nebraska Press in 2019, and Nomenclatures of Invisibility, BOA 2023. She is also the author of the chapbook collection Behind Walls and Glass, published by Finishing Line Press in 2015. She is the founder and executive director of Anaphora. Is that how you say it? Oh, I'm killing gaming. I might be Ethiopian or Eritrean. Anaphora Arts, a nonprofit organization that advocates for writers and artists of color. Y'all, again, shake in your seats for this, because we almost at the ending. At the end, we got a couple more writers. So you guys shake in your seat while you clap for Mahtem, okay? Give it up for Mahtem!
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And you do look Habesha. And I think all you have to say is salam, salam, and you get through. Yeah, that's a good trick. Oh my God, I really can't see all, but thank you so much for being here. It's a weird thing to do, to gather on a random Thursday for art. But you're all here, so thank you. And I wanted to start, and thank you for Adi and Kaya for bringing us together with this wonderful theme. I wanted to start with a poem that I think brings me back home. I used to participate in the Wednesday night poetry workshops at Beyond Baroque. And Gail Roski, who's my first teacher and mentor, and who's a rock star basically here, is the one who directed me to Beyond Baroque. And I workshopped this poem here, so I think I'm gonna start with that. And thank you, Beyond Baroque, for everything that you do. We take notice. We really do. Okay. She says they come at night. Like diligent thieves, quick and quiet, they take things, small, small things, tuck them deep into their pockets, roll them like socks, cup their palms against the warm cloth to feel certainty. How do they know? They lurk. Each home has its own devil. They smell sucked air, thin air, empty air. They probe, curved swallows, thickening fear. I say they must come at night. She says they do. I say I already hear them, their footsteps a faint forking of carpet hairs. She says their silence is white. But I do hear them. She says there is no quietness in me.
but I think that's a good thing. Firstborn sons were killed on a quiet night, like any other. I say diligent thieves get only what they came for. She says they do. The ones rattling as if they were discomforted, as if they did not belong there, quick and quiet, taken, like small things, small, small things, lulled and rolled. I'm mixing it up a bit here tonight. I do have a new book, shout out, and Beyond Baroque has it, which is amazing. Thank you. But like Cynthia, I'm reading new poems tonight, just to shake it up a little bit. Um, this one is called Girlhood. Here we stand again among the trees that have fallen at our feet to give way to new deserts we didn't know we had in ourselves. Think about what this is, what it could do to our thirsts. June is a new month, and though new rain falls and falls, we have taken this to be a new kindness, a new tenderness heaving beneath us, as if to say, here, come here, this is your resting place. Dear rain, bring me the joys of solitude, the joys of melancholy, being lost in wonderment amidst your brilliance. It is not I that I have constructed this carefully, but still I dream of just sitting on top of the bunk bed and looking outward towards a half-cheeked moon and writing furiously as if that is the only thing I am allowed to do. Dear rain, allow me a new memory of girlhood, a new dream that does not include the aftermath, just a moment, a glimpse, an exacting of what was, what could be, as this one has already undone herself too many times before without anyone's permission, and without permission she asks one more. Where to? The madness. Where to? The freedom. Only to hear you say, this way, and though it won't lead anywhere, she will follow you anyway, here where her pen is mighty and her paper blank. I like to do short readings, so I just have a couple more poems, but we'll make them count. I worked over semester, 2 semesters long, with a student who was using Eve and the biblical image of Eve for a lot of things. So this was inspired by that. Mercy. Dear Eve, what must the first extraction sound like amidst the darkness? Before the seeing, there was only him, and them, then you. Before your eyes were opened with a command, before the breath in your breath, what was it like? Dark mass, unfettered and unshapely. It's intriguing to know how a new master is made, how they are molded by such hands. What was the great sleep like? Did you come from rest, from a death itself, or was it only absence? Before you, another hymn. Before him, simply trees bearing lovely fruits. So lovely they held the knowing of the firmaments in them. What was it like to be made whole, bone from bone, flesh from flesh, to contain the light in your body before you were so, to have lived somewhere where the dragon did not know your name or your people, where the trees did not need flame-filled swords and the garden waited for your words, your mouth supple with the taste of sweet things. Dear Eve, tell me about sweetness. Do you still remember it? I am trying, but my leaving has been hindered by the aftermath. I have seen it and now and know it to be only the truth. Dear Eve, memory is a mercy too. Did you grant us that? Okay. Last one. I love the energy that you brought tonight, Dilo, because I think with poetry, we can get sucked into the darkness. And I do that a lot, and I actually encourage it. But it's good to have people like you to bring out the light more and more. Okay. This one is a book-length poem, actually. So this is sort of the first part of it, an excerpt. The Gospel of the Nocturnals. This time of the night, the birds are howling, calling my name, for I have returned once more among my own, daughter no longer. They say this is what they've been waiting for, not my arrival, perhaps, but our communing towards one another, as if we were made by the same being who first set light on this beautiful darkness, and scooped bits and pieces from each, placing them upon this body, as if to say, holy is the one who has seen the aftermath and chose to begin anyway. But my point of origin is neither light nor might, but simply the howling that keeps coming back, quiet, pouncing, pouncing, a new prowl from a new den, and by then I will have filled my outer moats with my creatures. Such is the sowing of my imaginations, beings upon beings to wonder upon, to document, to love, crawling things, and creeping things, and rapacious swimming things, and airborne things, all beings who can call me home without seeking the motherings I was bestowed, for I have made this return already many times before, billowed hot smoke upon your verdant mountains, and prayed new prayers upon your feet, and call myself new and wanted and wanting, though I know better now than to do such things, than to engage in such scandalous ritual, and instead I find myself laid upon gray buildings, recalling only the faint scent of your lustrous trees, fooling myself into thinking to be majestic one more, made of things unstitched of new tomorrows. O mountain heads who stand upon me, I have never been seen like this before, like I too belonged among the waters of the firmaments, where new languages found their rooting, where the scaffoldings of darkness are still filled with small lights, scintillating brilliance that slid into my bones before I was so. Oh, what are beings that have begged for my lives? What am I to do but succumb to your pleading? The self that I have known to become undone has suddenly found itself to be an animal, a beast, roaming freely among other beasts. Such are the earths that we were given to muster. Such is the radiance that paves our ways. Oh, new sorrows, still unknodding. Oh, new griefs etched deeply in our flesh. Know this, if nothing else. This time, I have taken flight not my own, and have traveled away from the ark that has called my own to safety, and seen the bottom-lipped lands, the bones, the breaths without their bodies, and though the nightfall has been years in the coming, nothing can stand in the way of this new effervescence now, a new effulgence to breed us and make us a home on top of the highest branch of the tree, where our seeing will only be momentary, a small glimpse into the might, honeydew, alabaster, all-seeing, before we delve once more back into the night. Here, now. Welcome, darkness. Welcome, world. We have been waiting for your claws to undo us slowly, to pluck our feathers away and leave us bare-breasted and heavy-boned, but this time we look out for one another, arrivants no more. Here, we say, here, 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 make your markings. We are here to stay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mahtem. I was like, oh, never mind. Okay. our last but not least reader for tonight, y'all, is K-Ming Chang. K-Ming Chang is a Kuniman Fellow, a Lambda Literary Award finalist. That means K-Ming is a queer. Yay! And a National Book Foundation 5 Under 35 honoree. She is the author of the New York Times Book Review Editor's Choice novel Bestiary, which was published through One World and Random House in 2020, which was longlisted for the Center for Fiction First Novel Prize and the Penn and Faulkner Award. In 2021, her chapbook Bonehouse was published by Bull City Press. Her most recent book is Gods of Want, published by One World and Random House 2022. Her next books are a novel titled Organ Meats. Somebody else talked about it. Taz, Full Circle. Also published through One World in 2023, and a novella titled Cecilia through Coffee House Press. Y'all, shaking your sheets again. Sheets? Where is my head? Shaking your seats again for K-Ming Chang.
Hi, all. Oh, hi. It's such an honor to be reading with you all. I'm like pointing in the darkness, like, hello. I'm sure you're all there. Thank you so much. I'll be reading two very short stories. This first one is inspired by the fact that there's a strip mall near where I live, and there's a laundromat called Life Cycles, which I thought was brilliant. And I was like, wow, imagine if you can reincarnate yourself through a washing machine. That would be so wonderful. And that would, I would just think about that as I was walking by. So unexpected inspiration. So Life Cycles. With the paycheck from her new job, my mother buys a washing machine. She straps the box to the top of our car and escorts it home like royalty. But Amma refuses to use it, says the machine wastes water. In truth, she wants to keep going to the 24-hour laundromat on her street, the one with windows so big and clear, everything inside is whitened by the soap of sunlight. It's where you go to be reborn. After slotting your quarters into the machine, you choose your cycle and crawl inside. There's the delicate cycle for souls that are easily torn and must be massaged into their new forms. The power wash cycle for those whose sins are particularly stubborn stains. And the quick wash, which swallows all the rest of us. My mother says we're strapped to a cosmic wheel and you can't just press a start button and expect to escape suffering. But Amma takes me on Sundays, and we run through the aisles laughing, flinging open the doors to every machine, witnessing rebirth. A crow gushing out like ink, a doe climbing out on wobbly legs, an octopus blended into jelly. Amma never launders her own life. Only our clothes go into the machine, never our bodies. It's better to accept your little in life, she says. I correct her. You mean your lot in life. One time, I yank open a door and a slug slithers out. Amma whispers to me that it's Lai Ayi, who's already on her 1,873rd life. She sold her house and her car and her kidneys just to fund her reincarnations. Now she lives in a metallic palace of coins, and every day she feeds a fistful to the machine and stuffs herself inside. So far, she's crawled out as every species of reptile, a battered bride, and a giraffe thigh. The rest of the body got stuck inside. Still, she's unsatisfied. Last week, when she was a golden-crowned sparrow, the closest that woman will ever get to royalty, Amma says, Lai Ayi fluttered to the laundromat with quarters in her beak, so eager to reincarnate that she slammed into the window and had to be revived by pedestrians. Amma shakes her head and says some women are so terrified of repeating the same life, they'll run to anything else. Our family is the same way. My mother says she'll kill herself before she ages into a burden like Amma. And Amma says she'll grow nice and old instead of jumping off a building like her mother did. Both of them worry I will copy their crimes, adding to the debts we've accrued in our past lives. The cousin kidnapped by her husband, the country that flooded, the aunt with the bean in her breast. Every tragedy is currency, a down payment on our bodies, and the job of a daughter is to be the one responsible. I asked my mother if I can quit this job, and she says to stop going to the laundromat. It's a gutter of guilt. But at night, when I see her kneeling in front of the shrine, I know she believes we've committed horrors before we were born. Because we'll never pay back our days, we have no exit. Instead of emerging into air, we paddle in the opposite direction, burying ourselves deeper inside our mothers. We grow into them like clothes, wearing all we owe. I imagine my mother inside a washing machine, trapped behind glass, turned in circles until her face erases itself like a stain. The next morning, I find out why she's been praying. In the kitchen, she tells Ama that she got fired. She's going to have to go back to the store with the washing machine, and we better pray it's not too late to return it. It's always too late, says Ama. That day, I walk to the laundromat alone. In the doorway is a little bird with blue-gray wings, a coin in its beak like a newly minted moon. Its wings were blurring into a bruise. It's Lai Ayi begging me to kill her now, to swat her down like a fly. She says, nearly 2,000 reincarnation cycles, and I end up a damn barn swallow. What's wrong with being a barn swallow, I ask. Don't you know, she says, barn swallows only have a 5% survival rate in the first year of their lives. Starvation and predators, adulthood is improbable. What I wanted, Lai Ayi says, is to be a protected species. One of those animals on a special list that says, you cannot hunt, eat, or capture these. They are precious. They are few. But barn swallows are everywhere, ordinary. At dusk, when I was a human, they swarmed the tree in my backyard, dicing the air as nimbly as knives, chasing tiny insects only they could see. And though they were graceful, all I saw were their ghosts, the 95% who hadn't survived, the ones who should have been, the inheritors of our air, every tree reaching out of the dirt to earn a crown of their bodies. I hold out my empty hands, and Lai Ayi flits into my palms. I cup her to my chest and walk up to a machine. When the door swings open, I climb in. Lai Ayi's wings beat against my breast, and as the drum floods with water, I feel her heart slowing, sinking with mine. We shut our eyes. We feel the water rise and rasp in our throat. Outside, I hear Ama's voice calling to us, her hands outstretched to receive our body clean. Lai Ayi's soul makes a nest in my chest, and the cyclone of water swallows us together. We batter the glass until it cracks. I expand, my arms branching out like a tree's, puncturing the walls of the drum, lancing it with leaks. Soon the water will lash out of the holes, emptying the machine. In the depths of my chest, Lai Ayi repeats, soon, soon, this cycle is ending. All of that from a laundromat. So this next story is for Pride Month. And I need to clarify that this narrator is not me because she's really unhinged and feral. And I always feel like I have to just put a little bit of separation from the I in this story. Gloria. Gloria Gall was the first girl I ever hurt. I punched her in the face for calling my family a bunch of dirty mainlanders. I was Taiwanese like her too, but just half on my mother's side, which meant the other half of my family must be made up of organ sellers, gutter spitters, and serial gamblers. It was true I had an uncle who stabbed another man twice during a card game in the basement of a pet store. It was true my grandfather won my grandmother in a game of mahjong, along with the flute that he demonstrated how to play by prodding the mouth tip into his ass and farting into it. Gloria was a church girl. She thought she was better than us because she had dime-sized nipples and an almost new Navy Honda. She prayed every day, and her tongue must have been tuned into the right frequency because hers always came true. She prayed for her own pocket radio when she was 9, and the next day they were growing from the sycamores like silver-skinned fruit, batteries falling out of the sky in a gunmetal rain. Then there was the time she prayed for the moles on her nose to be evicted from her skin, and the next day they fled her face as horseflies. My grandfather went to the temple twice in his life, once to pray for the lottery numbers to arrive as the number of birds in the sky, once to pray that he'd have a grandson. Both prayers were returned to sender. After he died, we pickled his ashes in a jar of rice vinegar and left him there as a lantern. Gloria Gall wore a jade cross and skirts with overlapping layers like the bell of a tulip, and she was so thin I could see her bones go stealth beneath her skin. She had a mouth like a Ming Dynasty poem, weaned off cream and perfectly circular, and when she prayed, which was all the time, wherever she was, she lowered her head and muttered, forcing us all to watch her fold. The neighborhood girls and I joked that there were things we did to bend her faith like a fishbone, like stealing the side view mirrors off her Honda while she was at church, or sending her a text that read 666 every day for a month. But she remained above us all, a self-appointed saint. She was pristine as an apple, and we all wanted to skin her. I've never seen the inside of a church, but I imagine it's swollen with light. Nothing like the temple where I went once to visit my grandfather. His name was pasted to the wall for the first 100 days after death. Inside the temple, it was dark and damp, like the inside of a plum, a pit pulsing down my throat. I couldn't look at his name, the one he gave me, the one I didn't say, the one Gloria called dirty. In the back of the room was a Buddha sitting cross-legged, shoulders slumped, face shedding gold paint, a chipped nose that reminded me of the time I punched Gloria, the sap of blood on my knuckles, the sweet. Her bottom lip unzipped against my fist, her knees ducked to the street. Take this from me, I wanted to say. Pray for me to stop. I'll answer to my name in your mouth. Gloria got a chaste boyfriend, a church boy. The neighborhood girls and I planted $31 in his pocket, along with a note urging him to get it in and bring us proof when he did. God designed you to do this, we wrote, and he obeyed, bringing us her underwear dangling from his maw like a dog. We were disappointed by the plainness of them, no lace waistband to tattle on, no little satin bow, not even a pattern of cherries or hearts. They looked unworn, the kind of white that meant her mother owned a washing machine and didn't scrub the family's underwear in a sink with a stone shaped like a fist, the way our mothers did. We knew then that we would never dirty her. I saw her alone once in the parking lot of the church. It was true I was following her, true that I thought of kidnapping her family's beagle so that I'd see her again on her knees, searching for something. But I knew she was the kind to leash her losses and walk them down the street like shining beasts, so I left the dog alone. In the parking lot of the church, I saw her sit in the driver's seat of her almost new Honda, put her hands on the wheel, and go nowhere. It was dark, and no one knew where she was. The light was on in her back seat. I wanted to wear that light, so I knocked on the car window. She rolled it down and told me to go away, but instead I got in beside her, told her it was dangerous to sit in an unlocked car. Her glove box was open, and inside I could see the sweet beads of a rosary and something that glistened behind it, a gun. She saw me looking and said it was for protection, that when her father first came to America, he worked on a farm and shot pigs and strung them up, unbuttoning their skin. I told her there weren't any pigs here. I didn't know her mouth was capable of making that word, pig, and I pulled it from the air like a pin. That night, she tried to teach me the word of God. She asked if I had ever felt his love. But all I could think about was her father with a pig slung across his shoulders, the satin shawl of its blood. In the back seat, she saddled my face, came in my mouth, knotted my wrists with ribbons of salt. I saw her nipples, and they were ordinary, not currency, no faces minted into them. I hated how perfectly plotted her spine was, her symmetrical shadow, how she rummaged light from the whites of my eyes, how faithful I was to the taste of her. Thank you.
Wow. Yes, y'all. It's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Y'all, this was the end. This was the end of it all this gorgeousness. Y'all, I want to just give a big shout out to Adi Magazine and Kaya Press. And Beyond Baroque as well, because these houses to cultivate and mentor artists are like, you know, it takes everything to keep them going, right? And so I know that y'all are loving on these artists, and I know that all of y'all in the audiences are artists too. So I honor you here as well. And so I think now is where y'all have to like bum rush all the artists, ask them what their handles are, see if you can contribute in any way through Venmos or Cash Apps and whatnot. And okay, let me just tell you, the other day I was asked through an organization, I will not name them, but to come fly to DC, do a gig, and they were going to cover, I mean, at least they were going to cover travel. But generally, a lot of the organizations do not pay artists to do work. And you're like, but we're doing the same work, you know? And artists aren't seen that we have to piece together salaries every year, and we're pulling out our hair. Like, I'm bald now because I have pulled out my hair trying to write grants. You get what I'm saying? So support in whatever ways you can, and even support our like this Beyond Baroque is a nonprofit. This is a house of arts. So wherever you can, we all put our monies towards uplifting people's, because what we put out, we know we're going to get back in. So with that being said, say the thank yous. Oh, also this last plug about Adi's June issue is launching next week, and it features an original essay by Farah Abdesamad. I didn't check in with how they spell their name or pronounce their name. And new poetry by Adriana Lisboa, Franny Choi, and Kaya Press author Hari Aluri. So yeah, this is a good. It's a dope ass magazine. And also Kaya Press is publishing one of my plays too. So y'all support them too. If you know rich people, just tell them to give them all sorts of monies. Outside of that, I think we're done. Y'all, we are on Tongva land. I did not know if we did a land acknowledgement at the top of the hour, but I just want us to remember that we are here as visitors, and that we must act in accordance to what the original stewards of this land have asked of us. And what else? That's it. Pride Month, be queer, go queerly forward into the universe. Love y'all.